Okay, this little video is under the engine bay again. Just showing you what I've done with my throttle cable. So rather than purchase Loca or some other aftermarket thing, I went to my parts box and found my VT Commodore Accelerator kickdown cable, which normally runs to the cruise control module, and I think it also acts as the retard for the traction control, because it goes to like a little box over here normally, and then it goes from that box over to the front of the air filter. And I pulled that all apart, pulled the cable out. It's got a nice little square bung on the end of that. Then I use that because that runs inside the car and actually connects to the VT Commodore accelerator pedal, which I've fitted on the inside. So now all I do was make a custom bracket. Haven't painted it yet, it's still being tested. A little custom bracket, just a piece of L plate, bolted onto the back of the Holly throttle body there, and just drilled a little slot hole to pin everything, and it all works. So and you can even see I've got my double springs on here as well. So I'm going to do a little bit of work here. I'm going to cut and groove some of this, or cut that on an angle. It doesn't actually interfere with that spring, but I just want to get it back as far as possible, so you can't see it. So yeah, that just comes out on the inside of the car. Ooh. I don't know how well that's going to show up in the dark now. Oh yeah. So that's my factory VT pedal. So there's the edge of the brace for the dash. And what I did was made a little box plate on the back to space it, and a little box plate there to strengthen it. But I'm still getting a bit of flex. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. It's probably me moving the camera more than that flexing, but this bit here is ever so slightly just going like that. So I'll probably just end up putting some sort of a brace off here down to the firewall to stop it from flexing, and that'll hold that all nice and tight. But as I said, there's the upper end of the VT cable just there on the VT pedal, and it goes through a grommet up in the firewall, which I can't quite see from there, but anyway. The only thing I had to do to make that work was drill out the pop rivets, the spot welds that held on the factory pedal. I didn't have a factory pedal, and now I'm just going to have to put a grommet in that hole under there as well, which shouldn't be too much of a major. It does sit quite a bit lower than the brake pedal, but once I get the seat in, we'll have a look, because that is more of a pivot, whereas this is more of a push. So I'm not too concerned. Oh, and you can actually see that's the start of my handbrake cable here. Where are we? So that there, it's just a rotted bar. That's actually off the VT Commodore as well. And I've just bent it up a little bit so that it fits in the old clutch hole. That fires up the firewall and bends ever so slightly. And then I'm just going to put a rose joint on the bottom of that bolt there. We'll see if I can find the original, I don't know, what do you call it, like a C-clamp or whatever it was for the handbrake cable. I think I still had that somewhere. And then fit that onto the end of there, which will give me my handbrake pull. And that isn't sitting quite right at the moment, but as I said, it comes out the clutch hole and goes just down inside the guard. And there's actually a bracket on the side of that guard there which almost touches the firewall, so a little spacer plate, and I'll be able to get it all braced up onto the inner guard. It has meant that I've had to move my brake fluid reservoir, because I had the brake fluid reservoir down there. So we're just going to have to get some longer tubing. You can see the tubing there at the moment goes nowhere, and I'm just going to mount that a bit further up here. I'll see if I can get a nice aluminium one, and then run the tubing down the firewall from up here, make it a bit easier to access. A couple of other things quickly before I go. My breather box has been done. This is a piece of 4-inch tube, And we've got 2 inlets over here, one for either bank on this, basically feeding in. There's a piece of bar tube that runs down here inside the tube, so any air and fluids hit that, have to go down and then effectively come back up. There is then another bar running across here with holes, and then we've got some stainless steel stelo type pad before the air filter, and there is a bung on the bottom which has a bronze washer underneath it so I can drain it. And one of the last pieces I needed to do, which I've just finished doing now, was the overflow bottle come expansion tank, whatever you want to call it. And again, that's just a piece of 4-inch tube with a pipe coming out the bottom, which allows me to run the factory cross pipes from the Holden across to this side over here. So I run all the factory pipes up into that, and then it sits higher, so the breather outlet for the tank comes up to the top, and then I've got my radiator cap which overflows. I don't necessarily need to run an overflow, but I probably will just put something above this here, because yeah, the power steering, oopsies, sorry, dropped the phone. Yeah, the power steering should be swung around and setting over here somewhere, which I didn't like, so I just finished making up a bracket now to allow that to sit onto the inner guard, and then that sits in there. So that'll probably be my last sort of videos for a little while, because I'm moving in 2 weeks, and so the car's going to have to go into storage. So until then, I'll only be doing little bits and pieces at the storage. So see you all in a couple of months.